Bailey, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you too. It's a really serious situation what's going on in Navajo Nation, because I spoke with the President Nez today. He told me that this is the worst they have seen since the pandemic began. That's because he told me today they are at 100% capacity for their ICU beds. And they can't do what they did back in May, which was they sent their community members to different surrounding hospitals. And the reason they can't do that now is because those surrounding hospitals are also full. So they're working on this, trying to mitigate this spread right now. So they did just implement another 3 weeks of their lockdown. So they were just implemented it for 3 weeks. Today they are extending it another 3 weeks. That will go through the Christmas holiday. What that means is that it's only essential workers can leave their house, only essential businesses are open, and you even have to have a permit for some things if you do want to leave your house. So they are taking this very seriously. Some things that they did say that worked with this past lockdown was that they were pretty hopeful after seeing the Thanksgiving numbers. They expected them to be a lot worse than they were, but they are a little bit better than expected. That's because, in part, because of the lockdown. So they are taking this very seriously, just trying to get those numbers down in the ICU beds, because they say once one person leaves, someone comes back in again. And they say their healthcare workers are starting to have to make some very serious calls on who they're going to treat and how they're going to do it, especially because they have so few resources there.
And Bailey, because it is a reservation, essentially, do they have any limits on what they can ask for, state relief, federal relief? Can you kind of give us a window into if there's any recourse for this really struggling community to seek help?
A lot of funding from around the country, even just from GoFundMe's. There's been a famous nurse here, her name's Lauren Leander. She was one that you may recall. She stood in front of the Capitol here during those protests, and she's raised a lot of money from people around the country trying to help them, getting them the services they need. So they are getting help other than just federal funding, just from concerned citizens, just from people trying to help them. So there is help there, but obviously it just may not be enough as of right now, because there's 100% full on that ICU bed capacity.
And Bailey, just lastly for you, I was kind of wondering as well, the pandemic is really surging there. And, with Navajo Nation leaders, what are they saying? We're on the horizon of the vaccine distribution. It's going to be here in a number of weeks. Will communities like this get some sense of priority with the allocation and the distribution? Has there been any talk about that?
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. I did speak with President Nez today about this, and he didn't have any specific timeline on when they would be getting the vaccine or how many of the vaccine they would be getting to distribute to their community there. They do say they're going to be meeting this week to talk about that. So hopefully they get some concrete numbers soon, because I know obviously Arizona knows, what they're going to be doing. They're still working it out there on what they're going to be able to do with that vaccine. But it is very important, of course, to get this vaccine to this community, because what they're dealing with is they have a lot of community members that have these kinds of pre-existing conditions. I spoke with President Nez about this. A lot of their community members have diabetes. They have pre-existing conditions like cardiovascular disease. Many people also battling cancer there. So these are all things that make it so that their ICU beds are filling up, because so many people there have pre-existing conditions.
All right, Fox 10's Bailey Miller there for us live. We thank you for joining News Now and giving kind of us an insight into this really terrible situation in the Navajo Nation. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So we'll be having a lot more coronavirus news as the night goes on. Remember, vaccine allocation and distribution is upon us. We're waiting for regulators at the federal level to make that emergency use authorization